Have you ever looked at a business plan or maybe just a big spreadsheet and felt that mix of, well, overwhelm, but also this real urge to get a grip on it? Because whether you're running a huge company or just starting out managing your finances, it's not just important, it's everything, really. So today we're taking a deep dive into different ways companies approach budgeting. Our mission here is pretty straightforward: cut through the jargon and give you a quick but really solid understanding of the main approaches. We're talking flexible budgeting, rolling budgets, activity-based, zero-based, and even something called beyond budgeting. It's more than just numbers, it's strategy.
Exactly. And, budgeting isn't just for the accountants. It's a core skill for anyone in finance. Plus, if you're studying for professional exams, these topics, they're pretty much guaranteed to come up. We'll look at the mechanics, sure, but also the why behind them, the strategic thinking.
Right. And we want to make this real for you. We've got some great examples pulled straight from our source material. They really highlight the good, the bad, and sometimes the surprising bits of each method. Okay, let's unpack this. Let's kick things off with flexible budgeting. Now, the traditional way, a fixed budget, right? That's set for one level of activity. But things change, don't they? Flexible budgeting is designed for that change. Think of it like a financial plan with built-in what-ifs for different levels of activity.
And the key to making that work is really understanding your costs. You absolutely have to know what's fixed stays the same no matter what, and what's variable changes with activity. It sounds simple, like, YY plus BX. Total cost equals fixed cost plus variable cost times activity. But the real world adds twists. You get stepped costs that jump up at certain points. Or you have mixed costs, and you need ways like the high-low method to even figure out what's fixed and what's variable.
That's a really important point. And it brings up something that can be confusing: the difference between flexible budgeting and a flexed budget. Flexible budgeting is the planning you do beforehand, setting up those ranges. A flexed budget, that comes later, after the period ends. You take the principles of your flexible budget and apply them to what actually happened, the actual activity level.
Right. And that gives you a proper comparison, apples to apples. What should it have cost for the activity we actually did?
So the benefits seem clear. More accurate planning, obviously.
Definitely. And much better performance management. You're not comparing actual results to some irrelevant fixed target. You compare actuals to the flexed budget for that actual activity level.
Right.
That way you see the real variances, the efficiency gains or losses.
Makes sense. But there has to be a catch, right?
Well, yeah. Getting that split between fixed and variable costs, perfect. Especially with lots of indirect costs. That can be really tough. It takes work.
Okay, let's make this concrete. The Corfe Co example. They make laptop batteries, right? A new kind with longer life. And they need to figure out their total production cost if they run at 80% capacity. That's 210,000 units. So the sources tell us materials are $4 a unit, labor is $5.50 a unit. Straightforward variable costs.
Easy enough so far.
But then the supervisors, that's a stepped cost. They need one supervisor costing $35,000 for every 50,000 units or part thereof.
Okay. So for 210,000 units, that's 5 increments, right? Up to 250,000, so 5 supervisors.
Exactly. 5 times 35,000 is $175,000. Fixed for that range, but it jumps. And here's where it gets really interesting. Machine maintenance. It's a mixed cost. Using the high-low method on past data, they figured out the fixed part is $225,000 and the variable part is $125 per machine hour.
Okay, so they need to calculate the hours first.
Right. 210,000 units need, 2,940 machine hours based on their production rate.
So 2,940 hours times $125,000. That's the variable bit, plus the fixed $225,000.
Yep, that gives the total estimated maintenance cost.
What's fascinating here, I think, is how it forces Corfe Co to really dig into those cost behaviors. Variable, stepped, mixed. You have to understand them all to build that flexible budget. It's not just about getting a number. It's about understanding the dynamics, how costs actually work.
It gives managers a budget that reflects reality, not just a guess made months ago.
Precisely, which empowers them to make better decisions as things change.
Okay, so flexible budgeting handles shifts in activity, but what if the whole market is shifting under your feet? That annual budget you spent months on, it can feel useless pretty quickly with new competitors, demand swings, cost spikes.
Exactly, and that's where rolling budgets come in. They're designed for that kind of volatility. Instead of being fixed for a year, they get updated more often, maybe every quarter, maybe even monthly. The core idea is as one period ends, say, a quarter, you add another quarter onto the end of the budget. So you're always looking ahead, maybe 12 months or 18 months. It keeps rolling forward.
Right. Always a consistent forecast horizon. And the advantages. Greater accuracy seems like a big one.
Definitely. Better accuracy, much improved planning and control, especially in fast-moving industries. Plus, it forces managers to constantly revisit their assumptions, which, naturally reduces uncertainty over time.
But I imagine it's not all smooth sailing. Sounds like a lot more work.
Oh, it is. Significantly more work. It can be expensive, time-consuming. You often need to train managers differently. And you can get pushback. Managers might feel like their targets are always shifting the moving goalpost problem. That can cause frustration, impact morale.
Yeah, I could see that.
There's also the risk they spend too much time budgeting, not enough time actually managing. And if you're relying on, say, disconnected spreadsheets, data integrity can become a real issue.
Let's look at Timana Co. They make smartphone screens. Super competitive market, short product life cycles, perfect storm for outdated budgets, right?
Absolutely.
They were using annual incremental budgets on spreadsheets, but the finance director went to a conference, had a revelation.
The classic aha moment.
Exactly. Realized the old way was no longer fit for purpose. Proposed switching to a quarterly rolling budget.
And how did that go down?
Not great initially. Finance staff immediately mentioned system limitations. Sales managers, they were worried about bonuses. Like, how does this affect my paycheck? Real human concerns.
That's typical. Change is hard, especially when it impacts targets and potentially compensation.
And to show why the change was needed, look at their Q1 results. Revenue was down because they had to cut prices. Labor costs were up because of minimum wage changes. Plus, future plans involved extra training costs and hiring a new change manager. That salary hits admin costs starting Q2. An annual budget just wouldn't capture this dynamism.
This really highlights the challenge, doesn't it? It's not just about the numbers or the system. It's about managing people through change. How do you get buy-in when the familiar process is being upended? How do you convince people that constantly adjusting targets is actually fairer and more realistic? That's a big leadership challenge.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Think about how business has changed. E-commerce, global competition, products coming and going faster than ever. All this rivalry means companies need a really sharp pencil when it comes to costs. And often, it's the indirect costs, IT, admin, marketing that are growing fastest.
Especially with more automation and complexity. Those overheads can become a huge chunk of the total cost.
Right, so you need a way to understand those overheads better, not just lump them together. Enter activity-based budgeting, or ABB.
Exactly. ADB flows directly from activity-based costing, ADC. Traditional methods just pool overheads and spread them using maybe one or two drivers, like labor hours, often inaccurately. ABC and therefore ABB says, wait, what activities actually cause those overheads? Things like processing purchase orders, setting up machines, performing quality checks. ABB essentially reverses ABC. You analyze all those activities, figure out what drives them, and calculate a cost per activity or per driver. Then you build your budget based on the expected level of activity.
So it connects the budget directly to the actual work being done. What are the big wins with this approach?
Well, a huge one is identifying and potentially eliminating non-value-adding activities, stuff that costs money but doesn't actually make the product better in the customer's eyes. You can also focus on improving the value-adding stuff, the result. Much more accurate product costs, better profit analysis per product, and budgets that align resources with what actually matters strategically. Often leads to cost savings too.
But it sounds intensive.
It is, very. ABB is complex, it's costly to implement, takes a lot of time. You need detailed analysis, data collection. Honestly, the benefits might not outweigh the costs if most of your costs are direct materials or labor, or if you have a very simple product line. It's not for everyone.
Let's look at Toy Co. They make toddler toys, good reputation, but profits are slipping. Why? Rising overheads and operational issues, shipping errors, missed deliveries. Customers are leaving.
Ouch, that hurts.
The management accountant suspects non-value-added activities are the culprit and is thinking about ABB. They start analyzing two products, Todd and Kid. They know the demand, batch sizes, order sizes, and they identify two key activities driving overheads. Quality inspection, which happens per batch, and packaging shipping, which happens per order. They know the time each takes and the total hours available.
Okay, so by breaking it down like this, connecting overheads to specific activities like inspections and shipping, Toy Co can see exactly where their resources are going. Are they spending too much time on inspections? Is the packaging process inefficient, leading to those errors? It creates visibility, it reveals bottlenecks, or maybe even unused capacity.
Right. Instead of just saying overheads are too high, they can pinpoint why and where. Maybe they need to redesign the packaging process or automate inspections. It gives them specific levers to pull.
Exactly. It moves from guessing to diagnosing based on actual activities. That's the power of AVB for a company like Co facing those kinds of operational issues.
Now, before we get to the next big one, let's quickly recap incremental budgeting, the old standby, right?
Yeah, they take last year's numbers and add a bit approach.
Super simple. But the downsides? Managers padding budgets, carrying forward old inefficiencies, and that classic use it or lose it spending spree at year end.
Definitely. It doesn't encourage efficiency or strategic thinking.
Which brings us neatly to zero-based budgeting, ZBB. It's basically the polar opposite.
It really is. ZBB says, forget last year. Every single planned expense, every activity, every dollar has to be justified from scratch, from a zero base.
Yeah.
You have to ask, why are we doing this at all? What value does it provide? What resources does it really need? It's a fundamental reevaluation every budget cycle.
How does that work in practice? Sounds intense.
It is intense. You typically define decision units, departments, or functions. Managers within those units evaluate everything they do against objectives. They create decision packages for each activity, detailing costs, benefits, maybe different service levels. Then these packages get ranked across the whole organization based on strategic priority or value for money. Only the approved, ranked packages get funded.
So everything has to fight for its life, essentially. A clear business case for every line item.
Pretty much. The benefits. It forces a laser focus on objectives. Managers have to understand their costs inside out. It leads to much better resource allocation money flows to where it adds most value. You often see lower overall costs because obsolete activities get cut. It challenges the status quo.
But the challenges must be significant too.
Oh, absolutely. It's hugely time-consuming, needs tons of data, documentation, ranking packages can get political, setting the criteria. And managers need pretty sophisticated skills to do it well. Plus, because it's often annual and so intensive, there's a risk of focusing too much on short-term, easily justified savings over long-term investment.
Let's look at the library example. The Plainfield County Public Authority Library. They switched to ZBB. The manager now has more autonomy but needs to justify everything.
Right, within strategic guidelines.
The library is seen as old-fashioned. They have 5 staff, costs of $140K plus other costs. But visitor numbers are up, so they expect staff costs to jump 15% due to overtime. Modernization is needed.
Okay, so the manager has choices to make framed as decision packages.
Exactly. Package 1, just upgrade the computers. $45,000 up front. Slight drop in IT maintenance. Website costs stay the same, but staff costs still go up 15%. Doesn't really change operations much.
Option 1, a basic tech refresh.
Option 2, more radical. Computer upgrade plus an integrated library system. Costs $98,500 up front. But this automates a lot, allows self-service borrowing.
So that impacts staffing.
Big time. They can drop to 4 staff, avoid the overtime entirely. Staff costs actually go down to $112,000. IT maintenance goes up a bit. Website costs too, because it includes a dynamic, real-time website.
Okay, this is fascinating. The manager has to weigh the upfront cost versus the ongoing savings and the non-financial stuff too.
Right. DP2 costs almost $19,000 more upfront. But annually, it saves nearly $35,000 in operating costs compared to DP1. Pays for itself pretty quickly.
And the non-financial side is huge here. DB2 directly tackles the old-fashioned image. It saves people time with online features. It frees up librarians for higher-value tasks. It could really boost the library's standing.
It's a perfect ZBB scenario, isn't it? Forcing that comparison of cost versus value and alignment with the strategic goal of modernization.
Exactly. It shows how ZBB drives decisions based on justification and contribution to objectives, though you still see that potential short-term versus long-term trade-off discussion.
Okay, last stop on our tour. Beyond budgeting. This one sounds different, more than just a method.
It is. It's really a whole philosophy for performance management, a potential alternative to traditional budgeting altogether. The core idea is that traditional top-down command and control management, with its rigid annual budgets, just doesn't work well anymore for many modern successful companies. These companies are often more decentralized, agile. They use tools like balanced scorecards for a wider view of performance, ERP systems for integration. They beat speed and innovation.
And the argument is that old school budgets actually get in the way of that.
That's the claim. Fixed annual budgets become irrelevant when the market changes fast. They can stifle teamwork because everyone's focused on their own siloed target. And comparing actuals to a fixed budget just tells you what happened last month. It's a lagging indicator, doesn't tell you why or what to do next.
So what does Beyond Budgeting propose instead?
Well, the Beyond Budgeting Roundtable, the BBRT, outlines key principles. They talk about 4 main advantages. First, faster response. Empower managers to act quickly within broad strategic boundaries, cutting bureaucracy, respond to customers' threats, opportunities without waiting for budget cycles.
Okay, agility. What else?
Second, more innovative strategies. Often uses relative performance targets compared to peers or the market, not a fixed number. This encourages teamwork, continuous improvement, taking smart risks.
Interesting. Relative targets.
Third, lower costs. Because there's less focus on hitting a specific budget number, it discourages padding or that use it or lose it spending. Managers are motivated to be genuinely efficient, seeing resources as scarce and needing to add customer value.
And the fourth?
Finally, more loyal customers. The whole philosophy puts customer value right at the center. Processes adapt constantly to meet and exceed customer needs, building loyalty.
So beyond budgeting is really about shifting from internal control via numbers to external focus, adaptability, and empowering teams.
That's a good way to put it. It tries to address the limitations we've seen in the other methods. The rigidity, the internal focus, the potential for gaming the system. It's a holistic view for a faster-moving world.
Wow. Okay. We have covered a lot of ground here. From flexible budgets adapting to volume.
So rolling budgets keeping pace with market changes.
Activity-based for that deep dive into what drives costs.
Zero-based demanding justification for every penny.
And finally, beyond budgeting as this overarching philosophy of adaptive performance.
And I think if we connect this all back, the big takeaway is there's no single best way. Right? It really depends on the company, the industry, the culture, the specific challenges they're facing. It's about choosing the right approach, or maybe even blending elements of different approaches for your specific situation.
Absolutely. So thinking about all this, what does it mean for you, our listener? As businesses keep changing faster and faster, how might these ideas themselves need to evolve? Could things like real-time data analytics push us even further, maybe beyond budgeting? What does financial control even look like in a world that refuses to stand still? Something to think about.